WESN.
Every day, we communicate through stories. Stories of ourselves, our challenges, our goals, our experiences, and our aspirations. Storytelling is an art that we have mastered. WESN Film Studios comprises a collaborative team of experts with extensive industry experience locally, regionally, and internationally. The ability of your business to successfully communicate with your preferred audience depends on the strength of the stories you tell. Your vision should be communicated in a high-quality, professional, and creative way. From concept to post-production, advertising to film, multi-camera productions, live events, streaming, and virtual conferencing, we are WESN Film Studio. Let your own unique voice be heard and your vision realized. Call us today at 628-5835 for your next production.
WESN.
Hello, Trinidad and Tobago. My name is Mark Anthony Peter, and welcome to Breakthrough, right here on WESN Content Capital. And as per usual, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Sean Michael Small. Good morning, Sean.
Morning. You didn't forget this time.
I didn't forget.
Yeah.
I didn't forget. I'm so happy. I didn't forget which show it was. I didn't forget your name.
Yeah.
I didn't forget my intro.
Yeah.
It's a good day.
Yeah.
You know, I had a week of vacation, and it's back to work.
Yeah,
so.
one of us had a week of vacation.
Well, do you ever get a vacation?
Technically, yes.
When the extra 10 minutes, when the kids have no school, so you could sleep extra
Something
10 minutes.
like that, yeah.
Sleep an extra 10 minutes in.
Actually, these days, I think I'm cheating too much on that. Like, I haven't reverted back to, technically there is school.
Right. I mean, there's a little bit of a break because most kids are in exams,
yeah,
so
but
there's not
no,
as much.
it's not like on vacation.
Oh.
It's not the same thing.
Okay.
It's not that I miss COVID.
Oh my God. I kind of don't, but also kind of do.
I know, but when you were an essential worker, working,
right?
Man, them commutes,
right?
Nothing beats COVID commutes.
Oh my God!
Nothing.
COVID commute. You know what? I'm tired of you. I'm sick and tired of you. But that's okay. That's okay.
You see, and
you're here every Monday morning.
And then he's gonna forget me next week. Just wait.
Probably. Question, Michael. Is it a middle name or part of your first name?
Middle name.
Okay. I had that thought coming down the road. I was like, is Sean's middle name Michael? Is it
Given the
Sean
fact
Michael?
that I've never used it.
Well, I don't use Mark Anthony that often, and that's my first name.
Oh, really?
Yes. I
Your
have two other.
full name is Mark Anthony.
Yeah, there's no hyphen.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. It's two names, but you know, it's one of those things.
Mark.
I know.
Okay,
but
fair
listen,
enough.
But that's just what
Anyway,
the names is. But
we
speaking
have
of
poor
names,
guests
I know.
waiting.
I know. I'm about to.
You were so
introduce her.
excited.
I am.
And you're taking so long.
Oh my God.
Yes, I am trolling you right now.
Thank you very much. So
Okay.
speaking of big names, well, my name is not big, it's just long. But speaking of bigger names in the industry, in terms of their influence and in terms of their
They're important.
They're important.
You're saying she's more important than us.
Yes.
Okay.
Because she is. right? We have joining us on Zoom to just sort of talk about the industry a little bit and our standards of the industry. We have with us Arts Manager, General Manager of Music TT, Melissa Jimenez. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I really, really appreciate it. And like Sean said, I'm quite excited.
Yes, he seemed quite excited. I was just impressed he had such a packed show, so, you know, we don't have much time. But very warranted, at least on the scale of music. You know, there's me, then there's Mark, and then there's you, Manager of Music TT. One would hope it's an important position.
Of
given,
course, and listen, really manager of all things arts and culture, Trent, in my opinion, okay? Every event she's there. But listen, we're gonna get into the topic of discussion soon, but I wanna begin the segment just to ask you to explain to the audience kind of what you do, because there's arts management, but you also, you know, I also know you to perform alongside with me at the UA Arts Chorale, and you do a whole set of other things. So let's just list the entire scroll of things that you do, if you don't mind.
Sure. So in general, I like to introduce myself as an arts manager first, also referred to as a arts administrator. In my substantive role, I am the general manager of music at Now Global Trinidad and Tobago. You may or may not have known by now that we have amalgamated companies. So there was an amalgamation last year, October, of Music TT, Film TT, Fashion TT, as well as Invest TT and Export TT. Yes, I know a lot of TNTs after these names. So it all came together to form Global Trinidad and Tobago. To serve the country under one umbrella for exports, investment, and creative industries. So there's that. As Mark also mentioned, I am a performer as well, which most people actually don't know. So I do sing with the UE Arts Chorale. Aside from that, I'm also a musician, less so because I don't like to practice. But I am a musician, several instruments. So yeah.
All right, thank you so much. So you mentioned all of the amalgamation and all of that, but you mentioned your artist management. Did you study arts management?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So you studied it at which university, if you don't mind me asking?
I got a Fulbright scholarship and studied at Columbia College, Chicago.
Okay.
Which has one of the foremost arts management programs.
All right, nice. And what are those things? So arts management is always so interesting to me. What are some of those things that people don't actually know what arts management is? Because you'll have a perception of it from the outside until you're actually in it, and then you think, oh, this is actually what it is.
You know.
You think you know.
You think you know what it is. And then you have to go around saying, you know, start off with, no, it's not that.
Yeah.
No, that's not a good idea to do that.
So funny you should ask that, because I actually posted a blog post, was it yesterday? It could have been yesterday or day before, titled Understanding Arts Management, a Unique MBA Equivalent. So when I'm often explaining it to people, I tell them that it's the MBA, but for the creative industries. And that is the easiest way for people to grasp that it is literally the business of the creative industries and managing creative businesses.
All right, nice. So we're actually going to get into that a little bit later in this segment, but I want to get straight into, so Sean and I have been having these conversations for the past couple of weeks about...
I actually think that it's perfect for that topic, if you think about it, right?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
We could actually kind of do both at the same time.
Yes. But we kind of been talking for the past couple of weeks about the entire, you know, I don't want to say fiasco or fallout, but the entire thing about the One Caribbean Festival and the, you know, the fallout that then happened.
The refund, the refunds, and everything.
There's a lot going on with that. But and you mentioned that you mentioned you're a blogger, and one of your few recent blog posts spoke about like how to manage a crisis. And what does that say? And then in terms of all of those things that happened with the festival, what does that say about our standards, our industry standards of how we do things, not just artistically, but administratively, right? I just kind of want to get into that. So if you could sort of explain a little bit more about what you spoke about, and what are some of the standards that you think we need to improve on in terms of how we do things on an administrative level, specifically for in artistic endeavors? Because I think that's artistic administration is a whole thing that people don't really quite grasp, and it's not as similar as the rest of administration in other fields.
Sure. Well, let me first start off by saying this is my POV without having any of the facts, and the facts meaning the actual contract to review.
Right.
Right. So this is based on the newspaper articles, the conversations I've seen in WhatsApp chats and so forth, is where I kind of just pulled my perspective from and gave a very generalized overview as to, what I think happened. Right. So I kind of broke down in the blog the ripple effects as it relates to business impacts. So one of the points was brand equity erosion. So, festivals build and invest year after year after year building trust. So that one cancellation that is so huge, it could tarnish the reputation of the promoter. It could damage the credibility of the artists themselves. It undermines the festival's ability to attract international sponsors. So all of that comes out of the brand equity erosion. Another business impact could be the financial losses and contractual gaps. We've all seen the cost involved, right? The cost involved to be five-star right now. So with those costs, you have the direct costs of refunds, production expenses, especially for the lady who kicked over the thing on stage, and wasted marketing spend, right? Then you have the indirect costs, the loss of sponsorship renewals and diminish future ticket sales, possibly. And the root issue was the weak force majeure clauses. So people need to look more at the contractual obligation as it relates to the possible financial losses, and sort of tighten that up in a way to safeguard themselves, right? Themselves meaning the promoter. We have artist-fan covenant broken. So what does that mean? Fans don't just buy tickets, right, to a show. For a show like this, they invest emotionally, they invest culturally, they invest financially, because, the whole kit had to buy.
Of course.
It's travel costs, is personal time off you're applying for, if it's during the week, or even on the weekend for people who work on the weekend. It's community gathering. So, what that causes now as a ripple effect is eroded loyalty, which translates to lower artist streaming numbers, merch sales going down, tour support, because I'm in a number of different WhatsApp chats and groups, and these are the conversations coming out. People are like, they like Cartel do Trinidad and Tobago, dirty boy. Oh gosh, I ain't buying another ticket. People are literally emotionally scarred. Afraid to buy another ticket to a major show, which was very interesting to me. That they took it so personal and so emotional that, they literally have trauma now from this event. And the last ripple effect that I identified was perpetuating industrial stereotypes. So last-minute cancellations reinforce the harmful narratives about Caribbean unreliability. This now makes it harder for legitimate regional artists, or I shouldn't say legitimate because he was legitimate, but to secure global bookings or receive advances, right? So there is that industry stereotype that continues to perpetuate that Caribbean people are not reliable. So,
for sure.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, all of those things, the last point about the reinforcing of the negative stereotypes of us, that really caught my eye, because, some people may have a certain perception when you're not engrossed with the people, or you don't really know them. you can kind of go off of negative stereotypes of those people and then make a judgment without giving a fair chance, right? But you have a career that allows you to work locally, regionally, and internationally, right? In terms of the standards that we have here and we have regionally, how does it compare? What are some of the good things that you've seen work in terms of when a crisis does happen, how you manage it, or how do you prevent it on a whole? Because sometimes, when we're just stuck in our own bubble, we don't know what's the standard out there as much. We may think we know, but if we don't have that sort of experience and exposure out there, do we really know how to sort of think? So what are some of those standards and how can they compare to how we do things here? What are some of the good things you've seen abroad?
So let me start off by saying that our situations and issues are not unique. I had the opportunity, could be a month now, could be about a month now, to go to Italy for a cultural and creative industry foresight forum. And there were about 20 countries represented in the room. And they were, of course, trying to get what are the creative and cultural challenges in everybody's, different region or country or state or whatever. And it perpetuates the same messaging that we all have the same issues, just at different levels, right? So there's that in that nutshell. But one of the things that I do think we need to work on desperately is moving away from this cultural fear that we have for contracts and understanding the contracts. And it's yes, it's a bunch of legal jargon sometimes that might just fly straight over your head, but it is important. And this scenario definitely shows that it is important for people to understand the contracts and to have qualified people draft it. So a lot of the artists and cultural organizations that I work with locally, everybody tends to just run online, download a contract and say, change up some things in it and say, yes, this is what it is. But they don't understand necessarily what they're doing. And I will say very cautiously that may work for something small, something that costs small amount of money. And I know small is relative, but it's not going to work for major events, for major contracts. And it is a practice that we kind of need to get away from. So I think this aversion to contracts that we've had for umpteen years and still going on, it needs to we need to move away from that.
Well, one of the things that touches on that I wonder, to what extent the aversion to contracts could be also part of another problem, if it exists. I don't know that it does. An aversion to kind of moving beyond the kind of amateur background that a lot of our performing community started off with maybe a decade ago. Like, it's very different now. Even the amateur choirs are very different now because of the level of skill formally educated practitioners in the business side and the performance side, especially performance side. So things are changing. But I feel as though the roots of anything outside of soca, even calypso to some extent, and kaiso and the like, the roots of our performance industries are word of mouth, who you know, but not who you know like Hollywood, who you know like really is your friend, and we kind of do an amateur hour thing. And if it, and it's very, like you say, small scale, and part of it is that lack of desire to really get professional, which is fine if you stay small scale, but when you go to, $900,000 or however much, if it was US or whatever it was in US, right? It's like, you can't just do things on a handshake and a bear over bears. Like, that's not a thing anymore. But I feel as though we don't have the practice, like we are being formally educated a lot on the performance side of it and the art, but the business side of it, a lot of the people who get involved in the industry, sound engineers, managers and the like, promoters, they're self-taught. So to say that professional standards are going to just interject themselves, especially when we want to bring international people in, it's not so simple, right? Am I correct in that? Some of it, most of it, none of it?
No, yes, certainly. But I do feel, I will counter that and say there are a lot of educational platforms and resources now for the past, I would say about 10, 12 years regarding business side of the creative industries. There are a lot of YouTube, what you call it? YouTube
Resources.
learnings on there, videos that they can check out. You had a whole department for creative TT for music, film, and fashion. And we have endless business resources and videos and workshops and conferences and all of these things to make sure that we're empowering these artists to be able to be business forward and to set up in a way that they are able to succeed, right?
But I feel like the artists might do it, but the promoters, the investors, they're like, well, I have money and I know what I'm doing because I've always done it this way. And that's something you see a lot from older generations in many industries, but in performing arts as well. But it's almost like if we haven't caught up with a new generation of promoters to kind of understand, oh, well, we don't have to do it that way. Why do you think we have to do it that way? Because as you pointed out, if we really want to scale this thing up, there are limitations to doing it, without all the professional checks and balances.
And that in itself is an issue that you pointed out, because the mere fact that you're saying that this was for artists, that is a challenge that we're having, because we put out this information, we do these sessions, and I realize over the past few years that if we don't specifically itemize in the advertisement who this is the intended audience, people automatically think it's just for the artists. So even on the artists, we literally have to say steel pan, panists, instrumentalists in general. If we don't specify, they don't think it's for them, even if we say it's the music industry, business, and business-related courses. So that is something I do want to point out there, because I know even the Intellectual Property Office here, TTIPO, they would have train-the-trainer programs, they would have training programs on copyright and intellectual property and so forth, which are all things that the promoters should gravitate towards to make sure that they, understand certain things. They would go through contracts and clauses and all these different things, but they are not the persons in the room. They, being the promoters, are not the persons. They're never in the room.
Well,
they're never in the room.
A quick follow-up. Professional music. Do we kind of have a psychological blind spot where if it's not dancehall, Trinidad, soca, or reggae, it's in the region, it's not really going to be professional music? Because it seems like commercially those are the things that are in the region. Outside of that, we don't seem to identify them as professional. We don't seem to identify the person playing the pan at a dinner service as professional. Technically, that is professional.
I don't think so, but I get where you're coming from with the instrumentalist side. The genre side of things, I don't think so. But the instrumentalists, I think it's more of where our education system has kind of pushed. So when you think of music, especially professional musicians, it's always a case of, because of our systems pushing them towards education. Right? So most of our trained musicians end up being music educators, because that's how our educational system is set up, where music professionals are concerned, instrumentalists more so, right? And aside from that, you have the gig culture, which is fine, and that gig economy has its place, right? Not everybody is gonna aim to be Etienne Charles on a gigantic stage selling out, arenas, right? So, but I think it's more to get them again towards the business side of things. I remember when I left the music program at UE, and really started on my path towards arts administration. There was some visual arts students that I was speaking to at an global entrepreneurship week that UE was having. And they were saying that, in the arts programs in UE, they teach them to be artists, to create, to, hone in on those very intricate skills, but nobody teaches them how to sell their art.
Okay.
So you have these great artists coming out, but then the business side of it is completely lacking because they're not being given those tools at that very, important level to be able to be the entrepreneurs that all creators naturally are.
Right. Yes.
So I think that is a very important element that is lacking within, I would say, the university education
Right.
sphere of
So on,
things.
so on that note, though, so what do you think? It's sort of it's a question that addresses two parts of it. What are your recommendations for the artists themselves, whether it's an actor, a visual artist, a singer, an instrumentalist? What are your recommendations to them to help better themselves and better their career on the business and administrative side of it? What are your recommendations for our culture, our education culture on a whole, to better equip our students, our upcoming students and graduates to be, to equip them to exist in the business space as an artist? Because very often, I mean, I've heard this stereotype before, there are some artists, they don't like to get up early, right? So, but if you have an early morning gig or if you have an early morning television appearance, those are some things that you kind of have to do. So how can our education system equip them and how can they equip themselves? Just as we sort of wrap up the segment.
Sure. So for the artists, what I like to harp on a bit is that they need to see themselves as a business,
Okay.
because most of them say they want to make a living from their art, say that this is what they want 100% wholeheartedly, and yet they just focus on their music alone. There will come a time, if it is you put enough energy behind it, that you're able to grow a team and all of that. But you need to kind of educate yourself on some of the basics. I'm not saying that you need to be the, business guru and do like I did and go and study business and go and do this and that. No, but at the same time, you don't want anybody, even in building a team, to come and pull blinders over your eyes very easily, which I've seen done in several instances, which of course resorts to people stealing money from them right under their eyes, and they don't know because they're not aware of some of the business practices and things that have to go into place, from marketing to accounting, understanding how to account for their money. Something as simple as, even if you're in that gig economy right now and you want to be an artist, you can't take the $500 that you just got from your gig and say, all right, I'm going to spend that $500 on an outfit. You have to be able to be financially and fiscally responsible,
Right.
and be able to say, okay, 10% of this money needs to go here, 10% of this money needs to go there, 20%, okay, I need to live, make sure I have food, whatever, split up that paycheck as much as you could. I know I'm saying it's not easy, but you have to find ways to split it up, or else your business won't grow. Because you'll never have money to invest in yourself. You'll never have money to do this and never have money to do that. So that's one major area or a few major areas there that I think the artists should consider. In terms of the education system, you said, right?
Yes, yes.
In terms of the education system, one of the things that I am always advocating for in those forums is that we have, and this I guess is more so for the non-artists and just creators in general, that, and even other disciplines, that we have a more practical approach. I am not someone that learns by regurgitation of reading books, which is what our British system has taught us to do, right? We read, we go, we regurgitate, and that is what it is. That gives me anxiety, stresses me out.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
I am not that person that learns like that. I learn by doing. So I was giving someone the example, like when I was in UE, what I would not read my textbooks like that. Like I will go through the textbooks and just highlight randomly inside of there, the highlight points, and then I would form study groups. And we would be on main campus till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning with a group of about 5 or 8 of us. And it's because everybody's debating the topic. Everybody's talking about the topic. And I retain everything from those conversations.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that is what I go into the exam room with to write.
Yes.
My practical assignments were always close to 100% when it comes to being graded, because I do well like that. And we need to understand for our education system that not everybody learns the same way. So one of the major things that I would like to see happen is to add components of, God, words are escaping me right now, marrying with the business world where they get practice in real life, real time.
Internships?
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
The
okay.
words are not good thing. So yeah, internships are very much needed. And how I circumvented that for my own self to get a lot of experience in my younger years is that I volunteered everywhere. I was
Yeah.
like salt
Yeah,
and
yeah.
pepper in the middle of everything, from NGOs to actual companies. It had classes that I took that had nothing to do with music that I just audited. So my transcript literally had audited class, because I didn't get grades, because I wanted to learn more. I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that when I go into a room, I'm able to talk about different things and be parts of different conversations.
For sure.
Right? So those are just two easy takeaways that I think.
I'll add a lazy man's third while doing another job that only needed half my attention. YouTube videos. It just depends on how curious you are. At least anyone that wants to do any sort of analytical work in media on any topic or journalism, you need to exercise your curiosity and willingness to learn, and then your comprehension of those things, right? And train your media literacy. So it's not necessarily for everything, but I think I'm similar to you. You just had a much more systemized and formal way of doing it that if only I did that when I was actually taking classes. But
If only.
Listen, YouTube is a lifesaver, and
really is.
Coursera, I would add to
Coursera,
that.
I have heard of
Coursera.
that. Yes.
Yes.
And what people don't know with Coursera is very, very much in the fine print. They give you scholarships. So all you have to do is fill out the form, and you get the scholarships to get your certificate afterwards. And
All right.
yeah.
Thank you. Wow, that is great. Unfortunately, we do have to wrap up. It's been a great conversation, but I hope this is not the last time that we'll have you on the show. Of course, we need you back to continue the discussion.
Can't have a show about art without the manager of Music TT.
Of course. But thank you so much, Melissa Jimenez. You can find her on all social media platforms, read her blogs, stay up to date with all things that Creative TT and that entire amalgamation is doing. Follow all of their social media platforms, and so that you can get informed as an artist. This has been Breakthrough. We're gonna wrap up this segment a little bit and head to our next segment. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Claudette, radiographer at the radiology departments at the community hospital. We offer high-quality service with state-of-the-art equipment in X-ray, ultrasound, CT, and mammogram. Come, our friendly staff awaits you.
Give us a call at 235-5479.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
Where good private health care is affordable.
Low energy? Heart concerns? Migraines slowing you down? It's time to take control of your health. Join Wellness Unlocked, the series that brings expert advice and real solutions for a healthier you. In our latest episode, learn how Jameson CoQ10 can help support heart health, boost energy, and even reduce migraines. Get the science, the stories, and the steps to power up your health with CoQ10. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and start your wellness journey today.
Bill and Ruth fell in love with the Benjamin Moore Color Dry Sage, but they tried to match it using another brand's paint.
I mean, it's close enough.
Almost identical, really. Yeah, there it is.
Never trust another paint to be a Benjamin Moore color.
You are watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Just give an overview of what exactly is that split arrangement.
Now you don't need to register nothing. You don't need. We can do that another time. But then it becomes a hit, and then everybody starts to want to claim.
The laws that predate many of the independent countries' constitutions are going to be those colonial laws.
We know there are an infinite amount of circumstances that would lead to a murder.
I have a great idea and I have a great concept, but until it's actually expressed, it does not become intellectual property.
Accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
They believe in different criminals and we manipulated the law and we exploited the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movie Town, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
We are tackling the hard-hitting topics, some controversial topics, some topics we sweep under the rug. You don't always have to forgive in a relationship for it to move forward.
If it is you are in a situation where you forgive the person, but to the detriment of yourself, what are you really doing?
It is very uncommon for somebody in the younger age group to have dementia.
Atheists don't not believe.
Is that I can't disprove God, but you also can't prove God, so we cannot have a stalemate.
We'll focus on the woman who's being the victim,
right,
or the man who's being the victim. We exclude the children.
Folks are trying to study the underlying brain mechanism to figure out how does this particular disorder happen in the brain? How is the brain processing this?
Don't worry about AI, worry about humans working with AI.
Are you willing to learn new skills to stay relevant for the future job market? That's the challenge that people are going to struggle with.
SM Group International Limited, your solutions partner for the latest innovations, brands, and competent staff to meet your needs. We provide products and services in the following divisions: executive services, event rental and services, power and heavy equipment, construction and property management, food and beverage, aggregate and sales and distribution. Check out more on our products and services at www.smgrouptt.com. Contact us at 221-7445 or email at info@smgrouptt.com. We are SM Group International, your solutions partner.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity, from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, Trinidad and Tobago, welcome back to Breakthrough. Still here with my co-host. Nice face. Okay.
Yeah, no,
nice.
I'm excited.
Yes.
You know, packed show. You know?
We've not had that in
Mark
a
has been skimping the last couple of weeks, but this week we're packed.
Listen, it's yes, we
I'm enjoying not having to produce a show. Being on a show, I don't have to.
I am so weak, but I'm very excited. Again, always excited for our guests because we have none other than the piano girl, Johanna, right here with us. Good morning. Thank you so much.
I'm so happy you got the name right,
Of
like
course.
the artist name right, like high five on that.
I just want to say, no, it was wrong, because it's supposed to be the legendary piano girl.
Like the piano girl, like that's the brand.
Yeah.
So
I know that's the brand, but now we're going
But I
like
appreciate
beyond.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, the legendary.
So
see, you're only the second one that got the legendary moniker. You know, it's like
Can I high five?
That's right. That's right. That's like Uncle Roger giving out the uncle title. You see, the legendary piano girl.
I'm taking it.
There you
I
go.
accept it with love. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. Finally, we've actually been
Thanks
trying
for having me.
to do this for quite some time.
Perfect alignment.
Perfect timing. I just messaged her. She was like, yeah, sure, that works. I was like, great.
It's nice when things just line up.
I know,
And
right?
it's low effort, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to be there.
It was
Thanks for having me.
No problem. But we're going to get into this new song that you've released, right?
Yes.
So I must say, I really do enjoy it. I always enjoy your stuff. One of my, whether it's your piano solo stuff or your singing stuff, but this song in particular is a little bit, it moves the boundaries of what you've done a little bit more musically and in other areas, and especially the visuals. Like that video was really, really well done. Can you tell us a little bit about the song?
Yes, so Forever is a song about love. I mean, if we don't sing about love, like what? I mean, there's other themes, but so Forever is a song about love.
90% of songs that connects to people.
Exactly, exactly. So I think there's something in this song for everyone. Okay. And people have been telling me that they experience different emotions from it. Some is romantic. A woman messaged me saying that she sings it to her daughters. Some people say it's about self-love. I think when I sing it and I wrote it, I felt like self-love.
Right.
I wanted it to have like a pop Bollywood feel.
Right.
So this was like, you know, something different. Yeah, and I wanted to sort of like get into that genre a bit. Now I do find genre is a limiting word.
Okay.
You know, like, because we have so many different fusions of things, right? But anyway, if I had to put it into one, I would say island pop Bollywood, because there's some Hindi in there.
Yes, there is.
Right?
Yes.
So I had to get, one of my friends who's fluent in Hindi helped me translate. And the interesting thing about this is I not only wrote it, meaning the music and the lyrics, I also produced the song. So that was what was
really interesting.
really like an expansion for me on this project. I feel like you have a question for me.
No, well, just because it's, you know, I don't know what your creative process is. So to what extent now?
Me neither. I'm like, what is it really?
But like in the sense of, at least at the very basis, I'm assuming, usually you write song, music lyrics, then someone helps you with regards to all the technical aspects of production. But this one, it's almost like if you wanted your hands on everything. Is it that you wanted to challenge yourself, or you felt with this project, no, I need to make sure my vision is exactly what it's supposed to be from beginning to end?
Thanks for these questions, because you're making me think about the process, because I sometimes just flow and see like how it unfolds. But these are great questions, because I love like sort of interrogating what I also went through for this. So I think what I was trying to do is to get the song to the point of a demo, to take it to a producer.
Wow.
And in doing that, I was like, I think I could do this.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is sounding decent, and I think I want to like continue letting it unfold and seeing what I could do. So in terms of the song itself, maybe like about a year ago, I could hear these words in my mind, like forever, ever, 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 ever. You know those moments in the morning, like when you now wake up and like your momentum is probably very slow and you're susceptible, I think, to like messages or like, like divine message, whatever they are. People experience it too, like when you winding down to go to bed. I know some business people actually keep a book and write.
I WhatsApp myself.
Right, same. Me too. I have like
all of those things.
Notes.
As soon as it comes, you have to send it to yourself.
We talk in the same language here. So it was something like that that I kept hearing and feeling. And then I was like, okay, let me sit with this, did the chorus, let me sit to the verse. And I actually have some early voice notes of me playing it and singing it. And then just really like kind of fleshing it out and thinking, what do I want this to sound like? And then came the production, which is I was like, you know, people make songs in their garage and thing, like people make hit songs and thing, like I'm like, okay, it's me and my laptop in my bedroom.
Then that's all you need.
And
in 2025.
In 2025.
like
in 2010, that's all you need.
Like we are so blessed to have technology and, you know, different things that could really, so everything you hear on this song is me, apart from the amazing guitar, which is Kyle Peters. I don't know, shout out to Kyle. So it was, and I actually did, when you say challenge myself, I did challenge myself not to use piano. In the start. I was like, but I ended up using it coming down towards the end, because it just felt
it's the brand, right?
It felt like, I mean, really, what, like so as you say, the brand is an evolving one.
Right.
For me, because when I started this, you know, I wasn't singing.
Right.
I then incorporated singing. I was on writing. I then incorporated writing. I wasn't producing.
And now you're
and I wasn't like, even with the video, like I got to act. I don't know, as an entity, do you like to act? Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things, but just the opportunity is not readily available.
But you act, we act every time we perform, though. There's a bit of like, you know, this persona that you take on and you hit this stage.
I mean, to some extent, even for television personalities, there's some amount of, is it the real you, not the real you?
You have to put on a little bit.
To some extent, it is the real us, but it's also not the real us when we banter. because the banter's not exactly the same in real life. It's framed differently.
Well, it's entertainment.
Yes.
You know, a lot of this is people watching something. So I got to act in this. I got to like cast myself, you know, and like cast somebody else.
Right.
And with all my videos, I have a script. I script it to the minute, like to match with the music.
Because one of the things that we've seen before over Carnival, when you had, I think it was the video in the Promenade, that was Savannah Grass?
No, the Promenade was
DNA. Yes, sorry. So you mean to tell me you scripted all of the scenes, you knew what shots you wanted from it? Wow, that's...
I can relate to that because when you have a project in mind, you know you have a vision and you know exactly what you want it to look like. And sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it doesn't. But then it's like, this is absolutely great because this is exactly what I saw.
In hindsight, it makes sense because more often than not, usually you look at a video and it's like, them shot choices, those are kind of, I don't know what they were thinking. But with your video, actually, at the very least, there was no like, why did they make that shot? It actually looked like...
Intentional.
Yeah, yes. And every shot didn't look, not just intentional, but like there was no like, did they not know what they were doing when they lit this shot or angled this shot? And, you know, they were very specific framing and visuals and angles to show off the promenade in different ways, like, and the various performers, the strings, right? So yeah, it makes sense now.
Especially their entry, like when we walked, you know, like I was in the DNA cover when I walked and I had Wasia and Nariba like on my sides and I was like, yes, like three women, we're doing this thing. You know, so that was like the moment to introduce. So when I create or write or arrange, I'm a very visual person and I have like that going on in my mind.
For sure.
Shout out the videographers though, because they're the ones taking my guidance and being like, this is how we're going to frame this. This is how.
And being willing to take your guidance because sometimes they think.
No, they think they know better.
Yeah, but,
you know.
But the fact that you have great people working with you and are willing to bring your vision to life is great. I want to ask a question because we were talking about that moment that you wake up and then you're susceptible to life. How much of that, how much you put in artistically reflects on how much work you put in personally, like in terms of your mental, emotional well-being and your overall well-being? Because I was asking this because I realized after a season of putting work on myself, it's almost like it's like your brain just sort of opens up and then everything just kind of floods in and you're more susceptible to a lot of divine inspiration. How is it for you?
Mark, you said it. I mean, I don't even know if I have anything to add there. I resonate with that statement 100%. I feel like things that happen or things that we do, like inspired action, always works out so much better than just action. For me, you know, people are like, okay, just get up and do something. And for some people, it unfolds like that and it works out well. But I find what works well for me is if I'm first personally in the right space, in the right frame of mind, in the right mood, and then I'm able to take action, like I call it inspired action, things just flow really well.
Because you can't, you know, you can't always force creativity. At some point, then it becomes like this commercial paint by numbers. Oh well, we have a song and it's a hit because you know the numbers say we use this key and this chord progression, which is used by a billion other songs, and we just repeat this phrase over and over as the chorus in this key, like 2 other songs last year, and we get this voice that sounds like those voices, and they dress the same way, and we have a video in the same concept. And but I mean, it sounds like no, to be creative, at least. For some people, you know, you have to allow creativity and not just force a thing out.
For this song, and this is a great point, for this song, I had to work through what do people want to hear from me versus what do I want to hear from, what do I want? So I'll tell
what was
you,
the answer?
This song.
I went with my heart on this one. I went with what I wanted. So I actually showed this song, you know, in its early stages to a music colleague of mine who's in soca. And he suggested buying the song and wanted me to write it out and turn it into Carnival, I love you forever, ever, whatever, which I think would be great.
Yes.
So like I'm open to a remix, and that person is just saying, you know, like you can still remix this song.
I'm not gonna lie, like that hook immediately, I'm like, I'm surprised no one's done it before.
Yeah, like I want like please take this song, remix this song. Like I'm not, you know, I'm open to that, but I really wanted to hear, and I played around with that idea a bit, but I really wanted to hear like what I wanted it to be.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's so satisfying for me to just, just really fulfilling.
We are run out of time, unfortunately, but I want to ask one more question. So you have, I would say you have a very present, you have a presence on social media, right? And you've been doing it, you've been doing this thing for a while, and it seems like, especially for performers and artists, social media is just like this constantly changing behemoth that people just can't seem to like always figure out and what works for them, etc., etc. How do you approach it? And what sort of advice would you give to other artists in terms of how they should approach social media, and also how much attachment they should have with social media, because it's also, the reality is it's not the real thing all of the time. Right. What's the experience, and what is your...
Social media is a whole job on its own. And if you are doing your own social media, like recognize that you are doing a whole additional job. Like there are some people, like their job is social media management, which is an amazing career path as well. So I enjoy it. That's one of the things that makes it kind of easier for me, because I enjoy sharing and I enjoy posting and I enjoy, and sometimes I'm not keeping up with the trends well, but like I posted something on TikTok and a guy asked like, are you new here? because the audio on TikTok, like apparently your audio needs to be clean, but on Instagram I post like live audio things and it gets a good response, but on TikTok I don't know if they're looking for clean audio, because a lot of people, I posted the same video on both, and a lot of people commented like, this was great, but it was too loud, too overpowering, and I was like, interesting.
Okay, so it seems like the requirements, so now you have to figure out the requirements for each platform.
Yeah, let me just say that I think it will always be a process of figuring it out, and once we know that we're in that space, and we're supposed to be figuring it out, trial and error, what works, what doesn't work, what it is like free advertising. So let me just put that out there, like you post, like it's free, it's free.
Particularly for artists.
Yeah.
And I just like to point out, for all of you businesses that want to organize, advertise on television, right? You know, you need to have some personal touches with your brand if you want to do it on social media.
For sure. We are so grateful to have the piano girl, Johanna, on Breakthrough for the very, very first time. It won't be the last, hopefully. All right, but we're going to have her back here for a backstage discussion so that we could talk more. Maybe even before, you know, that'll be absolutely great. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Do you want to, actually, let me just introduce the song as we go out. This is the piano girl, Johanna, with her latest release, Forever. My name is Mark Anthony Peter, Sean Michael Small. This has been Breakthrough. Have a good week. Bye-bye.
WESN.
Here is your WESN News on the Hour. I'm Sean Michael Small.